Good morning, everyone, and I would like to call to order the third quarterly meeting of the Louisiana Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. I am Mandy Mitchell, the Secretary's designee and President of the Louisiana Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council in his stead. And our chairman, Mr. E.J. Crampy, had something come up today, so he will not be joining us. And in his place, I will get the meeting started and as we move into our agenda items. Before doing so, because we are meeting virtually, I will read today's certification indicating our ability and authority by state law to meet virtually via Zoom. In accordance with Louisiana Revised Statutes 42:17.1, and there currently being in effect a public health emergency as declared by Governor John Bel Edwards in Executive Proclamation 25 JBE 2020 issued on March 11th, 2020, in response to the threat posed by COVID-19, which remains in effect pursuant to Executive Proclamation 167 JBE 2021, issued on August 31st, 2021, which declared that a statewide public health emergency continues to exist and which remains in effect from Wednesday, September 1st, 2021 to Wednesday, September 29th, 2021, or as extended by any subsequent proclamation unless terminated sooner. This notice shall serve as a certification by the presiding officer of the Louisiana Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council, LED Assistant Secretary Mandy Mitchell, and Chairman Edward E.J. Crampy, that a declared state of public emergency exists through September 29, 2021, in response to the threat posed by COVID-19, as reflected in Executive Proclamation 167 JBE 2021, issued on August 31st, 2021, an in-person meeting of the LSBEC conducted in accordance with otherwise ordinary provisions of the Louisiana Open Meetings Law would be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and the agenda of the meeting to be held on the 21st day of September 2021 meets one or more of the provisions of revised statutes 42:17.1 A to A through D. Considering the foregoing and pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statutes 42:17.1, the LSBEC Council meeting on September 21st at 9:30 a.m. Central will be held via video conference and in a manner that allows for observation and input by members of the public as set forth in the notice of such meeting posted herewith. So this information provides the authority for our council to meet virtually. So thank y'all for your indulgence on that. And at this time, I will ask Ms. Sonia to proceed with roll call. Just right here. Mandy Mitchell, present. Allison Clark.
Present.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Whoever's talking, I'm having a hard time hearing them.
I'm present. I'm here.
Okay, Kalisha Garrett,
I'm present.
Brian Greenwood,
Present.
Kenny Anderson, John Everett, Edwin Crampy, Courtney Davis, Cassie Fielder, Alter Baker,
Present.
Zell Dudley, Richard Haywood, Angelica Riviere,
Present.
Edwin Soule, and I'm Tucker.
Present, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a quorum, and so we are able to proceed with the agenda. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the minutes of our April 6, 2021 meeting.
I motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion by Brian Greenwood, and a second by Vice Chair I am Tucker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The ayes have it. Motion approved. Thank you all for that. The next agenda item, I'll provide a brief Hurricane Ida recovery update. Secretary Pearson intended to be here today, but he got pulled away, so he had a conflict. So he asked me just to share some updates with everyone regarding Hurricane Ida. As we all know, Hurricane Ida roared on shore near Port Fourchon with winds of 150 miles per hour and wind gusts as high as 172 miles per hour and storm surge heights between 8 and 10 feet. The total impact to our state is still being tabulated, but estimates as high as 25 billion are currently being explored, and that includes losses to both individuals and businesses. But again, that is just a very preliminary estimate, and we hope to have soon the economic impact as well of Hurricane Ida. As we all know, at peak, there were about 1 million customers without power. As of yesterday on our Unified Command Group call, we're down to about 25,000 customers that still are waiting power restoration. Immediately after the hurricane, state agencies stood up and were on deck supporting search and rescue efforts and doing everything possible to mitigate any further damage to critical infrastructure. The good news is that about 23 days out, recovery is underway. We are looking to long-term recovery planning. Things such as debris removal, the United States Corps of Engineers Blue Roof program. It has been rolled out. Our Homeland Security leaders and FEMA are exploring unique programs to allow homeowners to make permanent repairs while living at home, similar to a STEP program, which has been rolled out in another state. FEMA has 14 disaster recovery centers open, and SBA, very early after the storm, launched its virtual business recovery center and is offering assistance as well in person, which began yesterday in the affected areas. SBA has also sent out customer service representatives to support individuals and businesses applying for disaster loans. Just to give you brief numbers on SBA application and lending summary for applications received for homes. They've received about 18,000 plus applications, and about 102 million has been approved. And from a business perspective, they've received about 4,100 applications, and about 2.3 million has been approved in that category. SBA has opened physical recovery centers in Lafourche and Tangipahoa Parish, and St. John Parish will be coming up online very soon. LED has posted a Hurricane Ida resources page on our website. All of this information is available at LED's website, opportunitylouisiana.com. And if you click on the red Hurricane Ida, Hurricane Resources banner at the top, you can find a wealth of information. Also, just want to share that we're happy to continue pushing out procurement opportunities information. As we all know, you have to be registered with the state as a vendor in order to participate in procurement, whether it's peace times, if you will, or during an emergency. And also identify which commodities or services you're interested in providing, and they push out the information on those procurement opportunities. Just wanted to share a couple other resources. We know that business interruption insurance is of interest. So LED has on its page links to business interruption insurance frequently asked questions that'll take you to Department of Insurance website. And then Baton Rouge Area Chamber, our partner, hosted an FAQ webinar, which the link is available on LED's website, where there was some good Q&A on that topic. So that concludes the Hurricane Ida recovery update. And I will move on to the legislative session outcomes and COVID-19 relief programs relevant to small business. If you all recall, in the April meeting, we had guest legislators on the line with us, informing us about tax reform proposals that were on the docket for the legislative session. Those efforts were successful in a number of fronts, both in the business income category and individual income tax category, as well as sales taxes. But more importantly, I'd also like to share that from the legislative session, additional funding was provided for small business grant relief in support of those small businesses and nonprofits seeking to recover from the effects of COVID-19, the economic impacts of that. So the nonprofit and small business grant program was enacted by Act 410 of the 2021 regular session. $10 million in funding was provided for this purpose. And the Louisiana Department of Revenue is serving as the administrator of this program. And I'll just share with you on the nonprofit side thus far, about 5,400 applications have been submitted. And on the small business side, about 43,000 applications have been submitted. Department of Revenue has begun issuing checks to those who meet the program eligibility, and they will continue evaluating meeting the program eligibility for that program. And happy to follow up if anyone needs additional information on the small business and nonprofit grant program. Again, it was something that typically those of us who deal in the space of access to capital for small businesses, we know the mantra, there's no free lunch. It's very hard to find grants for small business, but because of really for any business, to start a business or to grow a business, it's rare to have grants, free money. But because of the extenuating circumstances of COVID-19, our legislature, in partnership with the governor, has made some concessions there and some exceptions, and they're pushing out every resource that we can to save our small businesses. Real briefly on the tax reform front, Senator Alain and Representative Bishop and Representative Reiser worked together on a number of pieces of legislation that would, in exchange for eliminating the federal income tax deduction, would lower corporate and individual income tax rates. And so right now we're looking at Senate Bill 159. That is a constitutional amendment that is on the ballot in November, and it will reduce the maximum rate of income tax to 4.75% and eliminate that federal income tax deduction. And then there's also on the ballot in November, I want to call your attention to the effort to streamline sales tax collection. We know that that has been of utmost importance to small businesses in our state that operate in multiple parish and have to deal with multiple tax collectors and tax structures and frameworks. So what this amendment would do would provide for the legislature to establish the State and Local Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Commission. And this commission would be able to provide for streamlined electronic filing, electronic remittance, and the collection of sales and use taxes levied within the state to ensure prompt remittance of those taxes to each taxing authority. Those are the highlights from the legislative session. We are happy to bring back those legislators, Speaker Scheck-Snyder, Senator Alain, and Representatives Bishop and Reiser, if this group would like to delve a bit deeper in a future meeting on either of these topics. I will pause there before moving into our next agenda item, which is intended to be a joint, a discussion, an open discussion of this group, where we seek to get your input and your feedback regarding small business state small business credit initiative. So I'll pause there. Any questions or comments about the previous reports or updates?
We did have one question come in from YouTube wanting to know, if applied, when will they be contacted?
For, they're probably referring to that small business and nonprofit grant program. And Department of Revenue, that program is, it's awarded first come, first served basis. And the applicant has to meet the eligibility criteria, and their set criteria for small business versus a nonprofit. I believe that Department of Revenue has a week to 2 week turnaround in which they're processing and evaluating the applications. So that individual, if you'd like me to follow up, please email me at Mandy, mandi.mitchell@la.gov, mandy.mitchell@la.gov, and I can follow up on your question if you have any further details.
Mandy, we might want to also find out, I know that during that first round, there were quite a bit of small business owners that were turned down for that. I think Kalisha knows a little bit about what I'm talking about. I, as a small business person, was also turned down for that. I have no idea why.
Okay.
They did not cite reasons. It's real vague, seemingly, as of right now, as to what the criterion is to be able to get it. So another question might be, now that, you know, I don't know if they completely went through the first round. I know they were trying to get another tranche. But if you were turned down before, and especially with in light of what's going on right now, are you able to apply again? And if not now, then when there is a second tranche of money, are you able to try to apply again then? So that might be some good information we can push out to people.
Okay. Okay, yes, I will do that. I can push out a status update and also inquire as to whether or not those that were turned down, if they will get any more specificity with regard to the reason behind that. Definitely will follow up on that and send that out.
And one other thing, I'm hearing the numbers that you said about the SBA program. I'm kind of shocked at how low the numbers are right now. I'm glad that they extended it to, what is it, October 28th for the personal. I don't want to miss state dates, and I'm sure they're on the opportunitylouisiana.com website. But I do want to encourage all of us in our own networks, social media, whatever it is, to continue pushing out the information. That's a low number. I've just applied for mine personally for the lack of insurance covering what they need to. I'll find out more. We're all waiting on adjusters, and I'm scared that maybe people aren't applying for these loans until their adjusters come. I have some adjusters for I got to deal with 4 of them. They're not even coming till October 6th. So people need to know that they can go ahead and apply for that stuff now. And I want to make sure that we continue to push that information out to not just other businesses, but, you know, people that have been affected by the storm. That's just important. That federal money is there for a reason, to help us. And I think we need to try to make every effort to get people to try to get access to it.
Absolutely. And because we wanted to focus, and actually needed to, and it was such short notice to focus today on SSBCI, we weren't able to add an SBA representative to today's agenda. But if that is warranted, we have a very good relationship with the SBA, and we can bring online a special call with this group with the SBA representatives, and I'm making a note of that. Okay. Okay, good deal. Leanna, if you could you send a link to James Chapel, a Zoom link?
Of course, yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone, I sent out to the group some background information on the State Small Business Credit Initiative. This is a reboot of an initiative that first was put in place in 2010 with the financial crisis that occurred then and the lack of lending and liquidity for banks. Lending to businesses, particularly small businesses. And so at that time, Congress carved out $1.5 billion for US Treasury to launch this program and push funding out to the states to provide for capital for small businesses. Of that, Louisiana received 13 million back then. And what we did with those funds is we carved the program up and provided about 8 million to seed a loan guarantee program for us at the state, and carved out about 5 million of that for venture capital funding, which we partnered with in-state venture capital firms to push those funds out. And our loan guarantee program, actually both programs still exist today and are still lending. Our loan guarantee program can provide anywhere up to 5,000 to 1.5 million in funding as far as a guarantee, up to 75% of that. And we partner with banks, traditional banks, community banks, credit unions, CDFIs, you name it. And that program has worked very well. Fast forward to COVID-19, and Congress saw the need to provide funding, the acute need to provide funding to small businesses. And so this time around, US Treasury has been awarded $10 billion to push out to states and tribal governments to fund small business credit initiatives. Of that, we anticipate, we have not received a formal award notice yet. We actually have not yet been able to apply because the application is not due until December. But Louisiana, we anticipate will receive $74 million to deploy in our state for access to capital programming. And there are a number of different programs that we could utilize the funds for. We are still awaiting final guidance from US Treasury, but we believe that there will be programs allowed in the following areas: to support seed capital, to support venture capital, in the area of follow-on funding, follow-on capital. We believe that we'll be able to use the funds for traditional programs like a loan guarantee fund and a microloan program, and also a collateral support program, which is something we did not do the first time around, but we are definitely looking at it this time around because we have seen some businesses struggle with having collateral needed to get approved for bank loans. And then lastly, those funds could also be used for managerial and technical assistance. So what we wanted to do today with this group is really have a discussion and obtain your feedback on the best way that Louisiana can allocate the funds once received. Now we'll share, we anticipate receiving the funds in the first or second quarter of 2022, and the funds will come in 3 tranches. So we're not going to get the entire amount all at once. The other thing I want to point out, which I'm very excited about, Congress has asked and Treasury has indicated that it wants to see states prioritize funding support for socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. Okay, so you will see a very strong emphasis in Louisiana's application along those lines. So I will throw out a question and really just open up the floor for your thoughts. I have a couple of questions to kind of guide our discussion. And the first one is, which funding program recommendation would you like to suggest to LED? And again, I'm thinking loan guarantee, microloans, collateral support, venture capital, funding for innovation, managerial technical assistance. Please, by all means, share with us your thoughts, and we can do a roundtable, or someone could just jump in.
Can I jump in there? I'm sure there's a few people. I promise I'll shut up after this, but since you sent the information, the burning question that I have, I know where I'd like to see the state be useful. I think there's a lot of programs that are around. There's PTAC for managerial assistance and things like that. I think there's ways that the state can maybe carve its own niche that is the most helpful. My question is, and I'm gonna be honest, I know we touched on our very first meeting. There was a gentleman, and forgive me for not remembering his name, that touched on things like the state-run venture capital fund programs. That I'm interested to know, especially when we're talking about helping small and minority businesses and things like that. How does that work? It worries me a bit to hear that the state would be, taking an interest or equity interest in certain businesses. Not a fan of that. What am I missing there? What don't I understand about how much of an equity position is a max? Does that bar that business from going after certain business with the state? How does that work? That's
Okay, so I'm gonna provide some opening comments, but then I'll ask James Chappell to just share a few thoughts on equity financing. But there are several opportunities for access to capital. There's debt and there's equity. And it's very commonplace, perhaps not in disadvantaged business enterprises, but it is very commonplace for businesses to seek to either start up or to grow with equity investments. And we know equity, the way it works is you share a portion of ownership of your business. The equity investor has a seat on your board, or they get to play some sort of role in management decision-making to ensure that the business is successful. That is one opportunity for businesses to grow. It's not a necessity for small businesses to choose that route. You can choose the debt route, or you can choose the equity route. And today, thankfully, although it's small, you can choose the route of pursuing grants, although it's very small. I don't think grants will be the long-term solution to supporting small business growth. But each funding or capital mechanism has a role to play. And it is solely up to the business owner which route they pursue. But equity investments do have an important and a valuable role in the state. And the VC firms, the first time around, again, we said we had split up those funds roughly about a little under 5 million that went to equity programs. And there were a number of companies supported and about almost 800 jobs, full-time jobs created, and about $32 million in private match. So the private entity brings their resources to the table, But again, it is the business owner's decision as to whether or not they will pursue VC funding or equity capital. And James, I don't know if you wanted to add to that, but that's why we're here today. Really just want your feedback. And I will tell you, in some of the previous discussions we've had, we've heard individuals say, let's do more of that partnership with VC firms, whether they're in state or not, because then you're in that space supporting either startup businesses with unique, extremely creative ideas, or businesses in existence that are trying to get to that second stage fairly quickly. James, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, and then Brian Greenwood, I'm gonna pick on you because of your experience. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just, I guess, trying to maybe address the question. I mean, I guess to start, because we don't have the rules, nothing is concrete by any means yet. It's very common if you look around states like Oklahoma, Tennessee, Georgia, they all have a state-backed venture capital fund. So we would certainly be one of many, not on our own. And I think the important part about kind of the state owning part of the company, having any equity, one, that's something we'd have to figure out. But I think the important thing is the way the model was set up in the past on the first go around, and certainly the way we're thinking about it now, is the state certainly doesn't want to get in the business of deciding, hey, we want to invest in this business or this business, because that's not our strength or anything else. And as Mandy mentioned, and there would never be any time where we'd want to be a board member or get into the day-to-day operations. That would be a nightmare. And a lot of seed fundings, I mean, some of the bigger seed funds like 500 Startups is a philosophy they've taken too. They just want to invest and move on. So from the company standpoint, it really would be no different whether the VC fund got some money from the state or whether it was all private. From the company's perspective, there would really be no difference at all. The state would be a silent partner that's just helping seed the fund initially. Now, whether the state would actually own equity is something that is up in the air, but if the state got a piece of the equity, once again, from the company's standpoint, it really wouldn't matter. It'd be the fund would just have less of, instead of getting 5% equity for the VC firm, they would get, and I'm making this number up, 4%, and the state would keep 1%. And the only reason, if we even went that route, is just because we want to create an evergreen fund. So that way, instead of having the 74 million or whatever number we end up using, instead of having just a one-time go around with that, now we have successful companies that have exits and everything else, so we can keep reseeding that fund to continue to make investments 5-10 years and hopefully, into perpetuity almost, to continue that investment. That's the only reason that these state-backed funds take any equity position at all, is to create an evergreen fund. The same as with a loan program. The fact that we're still using money today back from the 2010, 2011 funding, federal funding at that point. So once again, to kind of sum it up, it's a common practice across a lot of states, and really all the state would be doing most likely is helping seed those funds and helping match funds that private firms already had. So the state would never be in the business, and it wouldn't bar any activity for the company to then work with the state and any other reasons or anything else. As far as the company would be concerned, it would just be a normal equity kind of capital investment that they got, and they may not even know the state was ever involved at all.
Understood. Thank you. That's much clearer. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Brian, do you have anything you wanted to add on that front?
Well, just quickly, every business has what's called a capital stack. In the capital stack, it starts with cash and it goes all the way to equity. When it comes to venture and seed capital or venture Series A or forward, the ideal part is you use it to help companies either round out their technology they're developing, or they're, going to the second phase, which is implementation, revenue stage, things of that nature. It's not necessarily for recapitalization. That's in a different part of the stack. Venture is a high risk, high reward perspective. And it's only, basically for a certain, cross section of industries. I've been around quite a long time in this world, and I can tell you that historically, it's been ebb and flow of venture capital in Louisiana. In the early 2000s, there was a flush of capital, and we had a lot of innovative companies that were launched. And then over time, things changed for that. From the standpoint of the state, I think it's a great idea, because the fact is that there are several other states that have been very successful in doing this. James mentioned several of the states that are doing well, and he's right. We want some kind of evergreen perspective, because it's a high risk profile. The state doesn't, make the decisions as part of the management agreement they have with venture capital. So I think there's a space for it. I was on a call with the SEC for Small Business Capital Access several months ago, and one of the things that was discussed is the very thing about bringing capital where it's most needed in those that are in the socially, economically disadvantaged business world that are owned by minorities and women-owned businesses, because there's tends to be more challenges there in the level of availability of resources, let's say. So I think it's a great thing, especially if the state gets a tranche that can deploy it and then focus in the areas that are needed in that women-owned, minority-owned businesses, because there are high technology companies that are looking for capital, and we're a flyover state. What we don't want is a company to receive venture capital and then get recruited to Silicon Valley saying, hey, you want our venture money? Come to Silicon Valley and we'll give you it, or go to Boston or some of the other areas on it. So that's all I wanted to mention.
And I actually have a couple years ago met with some innovative companies that were born in Louisiana and needed to grow, needed that capital to help them grow. And there wasn't a solution here in Louisiana, and they ended up having to leave the state in order to grow. So I know of real life examples of that. And so we're trying to solve for that. But we're also trying to cover the waterfront with the needs that exist in our state. Remember, this group, in our first report, we emphasized access to capital as a big issue. And we have this opportunity coming before us, and we want to make sure we get it right in our state, that we deploy these resources properly and where it would have the most impact. So very good question, because we have gotten those questions of, okay.
That is a great explanation. I really do appreciate that. And it is good to be able to diversify the way that it's done. Anything to keep talent here. And especially, I'm very, very happy to hear about the focus on small and minority businesses in the state that have historically been left out, kept behind, uninformed. And so as one myself, I'm really, really happy to hear about that. And so thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
Excellent. What other programs or funding allocations does the group believe would be very impactful in the state? And think about it from the perspective of your own business or from those in the community in which you witness small businesses struggling to grow. Again, loan guarantee is something that has worked well for us the first time around. And again, the way it works is the state provides a 75% guarantee to a private bank that will come to the table and partner with us on providing capital to a small business seeking to grow. So microloans is something we did not do the first time around, but it's something that we are currently looking at, because again, that could be something very meaningful to socially and economically disadvantaged small businesses.
Mandy, I would like to say that I think it's a great credit initiative. I mean, I think this is great, the fact that it's focused to the small businesses. But my only concern is, as a small business, how can we spread the word? Because a lot of small business, they don't have they don't get this information, and they assume that probably they don't qualify, or they don't even know that it's out there. I mean, and since we're focusing this on them, on small business and minorities, I think the technical assistance is a great idea, but also through organizations such as the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, or the Orleans Chamber of the Black Chamber of Commerce, to spread the word to those small businesses, because they have the opportunity to reach out to small business and identify the businesses that need this initiative. So I mean, I don't know if that's part of it. That could be part of use for the money to reach out as much people as we can, because it's just like it's happening to the SBA. I mean, the money is there, willing to help, but if people don't get information, there is no way for them to apply, or even to know if they qualify or not. So I think it would be a good idea to spread the word to these organizations that focus on the small businesses.
Thank you for that, Angelica. And I will tell you that LED and LED's Small Business Services team, under this administration, more than previous administrations, we have joined in lockstep with partners and intermediaries that help us extend our reach into the women and minority-owned and disadvantaged business enterprise communities. And this will be no different. In fact, if I have anything to do with it, our communications and outreach will be on steroids to make sure that disadvantaged businesses know that these opportunities for funding exist. We know, and it's not just anecdotes, it's real. We have seen the data on the impact of COVID-19 on socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. It has been a significant lopsided effect. And that is why Treasury designed the program the way that they did. And that is why Louisiana is definitely going to step up and make sure that disadvantaged businesses and those women and minority-owned businesses are aware. And we have partnered on multiple occasions with the state's Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Louisiana Chamber of Commerce Foundation, as well as the Urban League, True Fund, other unique entities that have tentacles and relationships in those communities that need the funding the most. So it is your comment is duly noted, and I also appreciate your comment about the technical assistance.
And let me tell you something. I mean, the LED is doing an excellent job, and I really love all the help and all the support that we're getting. I mean, I'm really involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I can see the difference, and I can see how communicated, how connected we are, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I think that definitely LED is supporting and is doing what they're supposed to do for the community, and I love that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. But very, very valuable input. We appreciate that. And we are definitely going to carve out a portion of the funding for managerial and technical assistance, because, and Brian can speak to this, he lives and breathes this. And we're thankful for our partners with the partnership with the Small Business Development Center. You can get all the funding you can get, but if you don't know the basics on running your business or how to deploy the capital in the right way, it really is all for naught. And so we're definitely going to have a component for managerial and technical assistance.
Quick question, Mandy or James. Is there the possibility, and I'm sorry, Courtney, I promise I'll shut up.
No worries.
Is the loan guarantee program able to be combined with the loan guarantee programs with SBA and things like that? I know SBA has their own. I didn't know if, is it, you pick your lender and then you apply for the program. That's kind of how the SBA 504 loan and the rest of it works. I just didn't know if there was a component to be able to combine that.
So we're still waiting on the rules from the Treasury, and we expect to get all of those details as to which types of funding could be layered on top of one another, so that the business can achieve the growth that it needs. So I can't really give you a definitive answer on that right now, but I've taken it down to follow up. And Brian, you had your hand up, and I think Courtney is next. So Brian.
All right, thanks. A couple thoughts regarding your list you sent out the other day. I'm glad to see the list. So here's a couple of thoughts as it relates to capital access. So the first thought is there's a lot of issues that small businesses and all businesses are dealing with when you look at the pandemic, Hurricane Laura, Delta, Zeta, Ida, and all the disasters. So there's going to be a point in time where, some companies may be over leveraged. So one of the things that is a little difficult is to do recaps. So that's always difficult. And you have a much larger companies that are able to access that capital through mezzanine lending. One of the things that I don't see on your list is mezzanine lending for a smaller company, which would have a higher level of risk associated. There are a number of SBICs in the country that provide that. There's one in Louisiana that does do it, but it's a much larger dollar amount, talking about a couple $1 million or more before they get involved. So having some kind of smaller, program for disadvantaged or businesses that capital stack is leaning way more on leverage than debt, where it gets them in a better position to then free up cash flow to move on to other things. The second thing I see is that a lot of small businesses could use working capital lines of credit. A lot of banks, all banks have that, but some don't want to lend it because of the traditional ability of the small business owner to be able to manage a line of credit effectively. We've seen fact that you can look at, the PPP came in to help free up working capital for payroll, but to have some type of guaranteed loan related to lines of credit, I think are something to look at. That way, you can use it for managing the line of credit. It's asset-based. Borrowing-based receivables, things of that nature are used to collateralize it. The SBA had a cap line a long time ago, but it's changed names multiple times. But that's something that would also be of interest for small businesses. Another area that I think is important, you brought up the True Fund and the alternative lending space. There's always not enough capital in that world. And those are where people have to do rehabilitation to credit, where they're not yet bankable. I think there's a space for that to help companies get recapped or get rehabilitated, so now they can be handed over, to someone like John Everett's bank that could actually become bankable. That's another thing to consider, on it. The final thing I'll say is on the guaranteed loan program. There's always a space for that. That's a great credit enhancement. So there's two parts to it. Way back when I was in lending, there was the linked deposit program, which was what you have at the bottom of your collateral support that enhances a bank to invest. It's kind of gone away because where rates are, banks, state can't get, yield on their deposits. However, collateral support is definitely important because in this stage of the credit cycle, collateral is going to be limited. So that's one phase of it. The second phase of it is the actual guarantee. In years past, it kind of ebbed and flowed in terms of the guaranteed part, but you have 3 guarantee opportunities that I'm aware of for small business or any business. You have the USDA B&I guaranteed loan for rural areas. You have SBA that would be statewide, and then you have LED for statewide perspective. The challenge is that you kind of step over each other's toes because the programs are very, very, very similar. So suggestion might be is look at collateral requirements, look at leverage requirements for the state's guaranteed loan program to be a little bit different, if you will, than what SBA or USDA offers. That way you can deploy more of these resources to small businesses under that guaranteed loan program. Other than that, that's all I really have comment-wise.
Thank you so much, Brian, and all very excellent recommendations that we will take back to our working group here at LED, designing what we hope will be our application for this program. Regarding your last comment on loan guarantee, that is something that we have been discussing, not just with any new SSBCI funds that we would deploy, but looking at our existing program. Is there something we can do? Can we increase the guarantee? Can we lower the collateral requirements? How can we tinker with that program to push even more funding out the door to support small businesses? So you are spot on. You must have been in my head with that one. Thank you so much for that. Miss Courtney Davis.
Hey.
Hey,
First of all, well, thank you all for even having this conversation, because obviously this is extremely important to small businesses, in the area. I want to echo what Brian had to say about the line of credit. I think it's extremely important for small businesses to have access to a line of credit. With a loan, you might be going after something in particular, but your line of credit is what keeps you alive, especially when something comes along like COVID, where I know personally, we had to dip into our line of credit a couple of times to make payroll, even with those PPP loans. So to keep people employed, a lot of times that line of credit for us is extremely valuable. So I certainly want to echo that opinion of possibly having some sort of carve out for that. And then also wanted to I know we're also discussed how important it is to get the information out to people that loans are available, but it's also important to support the businesses with the application process. So I know we kind of talked a little bit about the technical side of what to do with it after the fact, but when small businesses, a lot of times the owner is in the trenches, and so they're out actively working to make sure that that business is a success, and they don't have the availability to have a finance manager or full-time finance person. A lot of times people have part-time bookkeepers that are kind of helping them as they grow. And so just wanted to kind of point out the importance of assistance with the application process. And also, if it is more than one option, someone that can explain to business owners what option makes the most sense for them. So I just wanted to kind of, put that out there. I'm sure you're thinking about it, Andy, but just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Yeah, those are great thoughts, Courtney. And regarding, tying back to Angelica's comment about the technical assistance, it is going to be a critical component of the funding from SSBCI, because just what you said, most small businesses don't have a CFO. They have the minimum of the managerial side and may have some staff to go out and provide the services or goods that they do. So for sure, technical assistance is going to be a critical part of this, and we will partner with our intermediaries. For example, the LSBEC, where Brian is one of the leaders, they support small businesses who are seeking to apply for loan guarantees, or for example, SBA funding post-disaster, it can be daunting to see these, applications, all these questions. You got to pull together all this information. We have partners in the state that assist with that, and we're definitely going to tap into that network for support. Very good feedback. Definitely appreciate y'all's feedback this morning. Any other thoughts that any other areas that we haven't covered? I don't see any hands raised, but I want to make sure if anyone has input, feel free to jump right in. And I will say we've got some really good feedback this morning. Okay. Listen, my email and my cell number, you all have it. If you have a thought that you didn't think of, that you didn't throw out on the table this morning, please do reach out and let me know. James Chappell, myself, and a group of others within LED, we have a working group that we are working to design our program and our application to U.S. Treasury that will have the greatest impact for the state of Louisiana. And again, don't feel like today was your only chance to shoot over some ideas to us. So please email me or call with any specific suggestions you have so we can make sure we're being responsive to the needs of small business in our state. Okay, thank y'all so much for your input on that. And we'll move to our next agenda item. Chairman Crampy had asked me, and I'm trying to be mindful of y'all's time. Chairman Crampy had asked me just to share some updates of the happenings at LED regarding project wins or rankings. And so I'll just briefly run through a couple things before I turn it over to Ms. Tatiana to share with y'all some updates on a small business front. And so from a rankings perspective, I want to share that LED earned the 2021 Silver Shovel Award. This award is the 10th time in 12 years that Louisiana has won the Silver Shovel Award. And the evaluation is based upon highly valued jobs per capita, the amount of investment coming into the state, the number of new facilities, and industry diversity. And so the projects we submitted to compete for this award represent about 11 billion in capital investment and 2,300 new direct jobs. So that's an exciting win for Louisiana. And then we earned number 8 in ranking in the Site Selection Governor's Cup. That is on a per capita basis for the most new and expanded facilities in the year 2020. And we actually jumped up in ranking from number 10 last year. And this is our 11th time in the past 12 years that we have been in the top 10 for performance with this particular award, the Site Selection Governor's Cup. There are a number of project wins. I'm not going to go through each of those. I'll shoot y'all an email on the project wins because we could be here all day. I pulled the data from the first half of the year, and we've got a number of wins in every part of the state, every region of the state, and it's expansions from existing employers and new employers coming into the state, bringing jobs here, making significant capital investments. And that job growth and that capital investment and the growth of the tax base means people have more disposable income to spend at your small businesses. And so wanted you to be aware that we are working both ends. We are working with bringing in new business to the state, working with existing employers, but we are also working very hard on the small business front as well, because it's really a strong ecosystem when both are working together and working very strong. I will turn it over at this time to Ms. Tatiana Bruce from our Small Business Services team, and she'll share with you what's happening on that front.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Mandy. We're happy to be able to provide some updates today. And we wanted to begin with some new programs that we are launching. So we have a new diversity effort that is launching today. And it's a program that is focused on women and minority-owned second stage businesses. We are providing peer learning opportunities that are combined with research for second stage companies. At this time, we have 10 companies that are going through this program. All 10 companies are minority-owned businesses, and 7 are women-owned. So we're very excited about this program and also our partnership with the Edward Lowe Foundation to increase outreach to more diverse companies in the second stage network. So that's for second stage companies with our program, Louisiana Contractors Accreditation Institute. We're also launching a business and law seminar that is going to be held from October 18 to November 29th. And what we provide through this training, it's more for small and emerging construction companies, and we provide information on construction management and how to operate construction-related businesses. So that's registration process is going on right now. And this week, we're going to be sending some links to a Federal Reserve Small Business Credit Survey. So we're partners with the Federal Reserve to provide small businesses in Louisiana with access to this survey. And we definitely want to know more information about how you feel in terms of credit. And I mean, that was a main topic during this meeting. So please make sure that you spread the word about this survey. The link will be available till November 19th, and we will be sending information for you to share on social media. We also have a template for email, so you can spread the word on that. And that's all our updates. So thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Tatiana, for that update. Lots of work being done by our award-winning, gold award-winning Small Business Services team at LED. I'm very proud of the work that they do. And if this group has any recommendations for something we should be doing, some additional program that we should be doing there, please do not hesitate to let us know. And we'll definitely take that upon advisement. I wanted to share something that Andy Moss shared in the comments, going back to the critical role that venture capital plays in the entire puzzle piece of access to capital. And there's a YouTube video called Funding for Innovation Growth, Venture Capital and Seed Capital. That is very instructive. And so I will make sure and push that out to this entire group. The other thing, going back to our conversation about the nonprofit and small business grant fund, I had to go back and pull it up. I didn't have it readily available, but I wanted to share, this is what I know about the eligibility for the program. So you have to be a currently open and actively operating small business in good standing with the Secretary of State, have filed your tax returns for years 2019 and 2020 if applicable, does not exist for the purpose of advancing partisan political activity, and does not lobby federal or state officials, in good standing with the IRS. And if a nonprofit have filed your 990 for 2019 and 2020. And then small business is defined as those with 50 or fewer FTEs. And then lastly, workforce development activity refers to any program or service or activity that involves workforce preparation or vocational skills training. And my understanding, just in a dialogue with Department of Revenue, is that any nonprofit or small business that met those requirements were then taken on first come, first served basis. But again, I just wanted to share that before we left this meeting, the eligibility requirements for that program. And I will follow up with those questions that had been asked at the top of the hour. Okay, that brings us to other business on our agenda. Any other business the group wanted to bring up at this time? And before we move to, I don't see any hands raised. Okay, before we move to public comment, we may have 2 more meetings before this year is over. We tried to keep a tempo, notwithstanding the disasters affecting our schedule, but we've tried to keep a tempo of once per quarter. But if we're able to pull in someone from the SBA before the 4th quarter, then we may do that. Of course, depending on your schedule and your availability, we definitely want to be mindful and respectful of your time. So we'll poll the group to determine when would be the best time for us to meet again, knowing that we may have 2 more meetings before the end of this year. Go ahead.
Hey, Mandy.
Hey, Mrs. Soule. Yes, sir.
Under other businesses, I'm hearing from a lot of local contractors the difficulty it is to participate in any of the disaster work. They're registered with GOSEP, they're registered with FEMA, but they're still not cracking the egg. I don't know what we can do. Can we talk to somebody from GOSEP and figure out, because disasters come every year, and it seems like they're continuing on the outside looking in.
Okay, yeah, that is something we can bring back to GOSEP. And what we may do is invite someone to GOSEP if we can have this interim meeting before our 4th quarterly meeting. That is something I will do. I will ask if we can have not only somebody from SBA, but somebody from GOSEP and potentially Office of State Procurement to come in and talk to the group. But I will tell you, we continue to push the information out as to how individuals can A, be registered to do business with the state, and B, be on alert when those notices go out for procurements, whether it's peacetime or during an emergency. But duly noted, Mr. Soule.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Any comments from the public? And I think we were addressing them during the meeting. Any comments that came in beyond the ones we've already addressed?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and anyone from the public, if you have any comments, please email mandy.mitchell@la.gov, MANDI, not with a Y, at la.gov, and we'll follow up on any questions or comments the public may have. And for those from the public that did submit comments via YouTube, thank you so much for those comments, and we will be following up. Okay, that brings our official business of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council to a close. Any other alibis before we move to adjournment? All right, well, look, we appreciate everyone's time today. We know that for some of you, you may have just recently gotten power to your homes or your businesses. We know that some may be dealing with physical infrastructure damage. We're here to help and support you however we may do so. Thank you for carving out the time today. All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move.
Okay, Tucker made the motion.
I second.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. All right, all those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.